the age of 25. Now, in Harlow specifically, our Job Centre has been running virtual academies and designing swap schemes to support claimants working with local employers, including the civil service, and additional funding for the National Careers Service will also mean that over 250,000 more people will receive individualised advice on training careers through their local job centre.
23 withdrawn, so we go to Virginia Crosby.
Question 24, Mr Speaker.
Mr Davies.
With your permission, Mr Speaker, I would like to answer questions 24 and 25 together. As well as the Kickstart scheme, I'm delighted to be the Minister bringing forward our new youth offer. Focused on those under 25, we are supporting our young people via a structured 13-week programme, rolling out new youth hubs across local communities and boosting support for young people with our new DWP Youth Employability Work Coaches. This offer includes support into apprenticeships, traineeships and sector-based work academy programmes.
Virginia Crosby.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. May I thank the Minister for her answer and the whole DW team for the support they've given my constituents during this exceptional time. In my constituency of Ynys-Môn, I'm working with MSpark, with Coleg Menai and the Bangor University team to put together an innovative jobs fair. And along with Alison Cork and Lynn McCann, I'm putting together a Make It Your Business event to support women entrepreneurs. How is the Minister supporting innovation and entrepreneurs?
Well, supporting the self-employed and inspiring entrepreneurship is a real focus for me as the Employment Minister, and I had the pleasure of visiting North Wales not that long ago, back in January, not too far from my honourable friend's beautiful constituency of Ynys-Môn, where I met a lady who had started her own innovative charity supporting other young women to succeed and thrive in the way she's described. I want everyone to have the same opportunities to build their own business. The DWP's new Enterprise Allowance scheme is open to claimants to support new and existing businesses to grow and thrive.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The local DWP team in my Workington constituency, who I met with on Friday, have worked incredibly hard throughout this pandemic to ensure that claims have been managed in a timely and efficient manner, despite the huge increase in their workload. Will she join with me in paying tribute to them as they enter the next phase of their plans to tackle youth unemployment and underemployment?
I would like to thank my honourable friend in his thanking of all our DWP staff who have worked so extremely hard during the pandemic. The DWP is supporting all claimants in focusing on getting back into work, and in my honourable friend's constituency, his job centre is playing a vital role in his community through key outreach, including the Mary Port GP surgery. Our work coaches are based in the surgery there every Tuesday, taking referrals to deliver work advice to their patients and ensuring that everyone gets tailored support.
Jones.
26, please, Mr Speaker.
Mr Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With your permission, I'll answer question 26 and 27 together. Those in a local lockdown area who receive a notification that they need to shield will remain eligible for statutory sick pay and new style employment and support allowance subject to the wider eligibility criteria.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the Minister for that answer. Clearly, local lockdowns will present local challenges, and we would expect most employers to be responsible. But can you tell me if the government will offer support to employees to hold their employers to account in situations where they are not fulfilling the guidelines and following the guidelines and making their workplaces COVID secure?
I thank the honourable member. We as a government through HSE and BEIS are continuing to issue improved guidance to make it as easy as possible for employers to make reasonable adjustments. Those employees who still have concerns can either talk directly to their employers, raise it with ACAS or HSE to try and get that resolved. Most employers, I think, want to do the right thing, and we're doing everything we can to give them as much help as possible to get it right and to make their workplace COVID safe.
Heading to Ealing with Mr Virendra Sharma. Mr Sharma.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last week, the TUC made it clear that 2/5 of workers will be unable to pay bills if they have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Statutory sick pay will have to go up for the test and trace to work. Will the Secretary of State increase statutory sick pay to ensure no one is left behind to keep the country COVID secure?
Well, we've already made changes to the eligibility for statutory sick pay so that people can qualify from the first day, not wait till the fourth day. We've extended it to those with symptoms, those who need to self-isolate, or those who need to self-isolate ahead of a hospital procedure. And for those on low incomes, they also have the opportunity, subject to their own personal circumstances, to get additional financial support either through Universal Credit or New Style ESA.
Margaret Furry.
Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bonuses are earnings and are treated in the same way as any other earnings for calculating universal credit awards, reflecting HMRC guidance, ensuring fairness across the working population, many of whom do not claim welfare. UC is more generous than the legacy benefits it replaces. The government has already made significant investment to increase universal credit's generosity by cutting the taper rate to 63% in 2017 and an extra 1.7 billion a year put into work allowances by 2023-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent, a key worker in a pharmacy, received a one-off bonus of £120 for her efforts supporting vulnerable people during the coronavirus pandemic. That reward for hard work was eroded when £172.69 was subsequently deducted from our monthly universal credit payments. Does the Minister agree with me that this is no way to treat people who have stepped up to support us all during these difficult times? And will he consider temporary changes to the work allowances and taper rate to enable key workers to receive these bonuses in full?
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for her question, and let me first of all say I want to thank all of the key workers across our country who have done so much during the pandemic. Universal credit makes sure that you're always better off in work, and under the legacy benefits system, Mr. Speaker, claimants wouldn't have kept all of their bonus. In fact, in many cases, the legacy withdrawal rate could be as high as 91% for each additional pound earned, compared to a maximum of 75% under universal credit.
Tom Hunt.
29, Mr. Speaker.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I would like to answer questions 29, 30 and 31 together. My department is working closely cross-government to encourage all employers, big and small, to apply for the Kickstart scheme. And I would urge all colleagues to work with their local job centre networks to help us deliver this.
Tom Hunt.
Mr. Speaker, the 6-month job placement created by the Kickstart scheme will be a vital way we can help young people in Ipswich get onto a careers ladder during the current challenges. Will the Minister also place a high priority on the excellent wellbeing and skills programmes run by charities like Inspire Suffolk in my constituency, which are setting young people up with exactly the kind of support network and knowledge they need at a vital time in their lives?
I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this, and this is really positive news for his constituency, adding to much similar across his constituency. Our work coach recruitment is now open in Ipswich, and we're also looking at a potential youth hub locally. So there's good news in Ipswich. Locally, we're also working with 7 employers and the Service Central employers who are both working together to hopefully find some key roles for their young customers in Kickstart. We're also working with the East Anglian Gymnastics team to have a potential new apprenticeship position. So plenty of good news in Ipswich.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I warmly welcome the Kickstarter scheme as a vital step to ensure the future prosperity of so many young people across our country. In Buckinghamshire, organisations such as Buckinghamshire Business First are helping to coordinate firms that can't offer as many as 30 places. What steps can my honourable friend outline that she's taking from a national level to ensure that particularly small rural businesses are fully able to participate?
Indeed, I'm so delighted with the interest across the country, including rural areas. Making smaller companies being part of a Kickstart is absolutely key, and we want applicants from across the country to benefit by bidding for these placements, and this is via an intermediary, a gateway organisation. Small employers, whether they're rural or not, will have the key support that they need from this intermediary, and this will help create those high-quality roles and provide that additional support so that all our young people can get the most out of this placement.
Steve Metcalfe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through our jobs plan, I know that my honourable friend is determined to do what it takes to help young people find and access the work that's so vital to their futures. Can she therefore confirm what other support is available in addition to the Kickstart scheme that will help young people in Basildon and Thurrock recover from the effects of the pandemic and secure their future opportunities?
My honourable friend is exactly right, and that's why we're rolling out our youth hubs across the country so that our young people can access that important wider support. These are going to be co-located and co-delivered with our network of external partners, including members of the Youth Employment Group. Our job centres too are already delivering activities at a local level to support our young people, including mentoring circles, virtual job fairs and sector-based work academy programmes.
32 withdrawn, so we go to Stuart C. MacDonald.
Please, Mr. Speaker. The government introduced a package of welfare measures worth over £9.3 billion this year to help those facing the most financial disruption during the pandemic. We introduced a series of measures to support people, including an increase in the UC standard allowance for 12 months, worth up to £1,040, increased LHA rates, putting an average of £600 into people's pockets, and made SSP available for employees from day one.
Stuart C. MacDonald.
Thank you, and I thank the Minister for his answer, but ending the £20 universal credit uplift could see food bank use up 10%, according to Trussell Trust, while GRF have warned that 16 million people would lose £1,000 a year overnight, plunging 700,000 more people into poverty. So will the Government now remove that cliff edge and make the £20 uplift to universal credit a permanent one?
Well, so I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. The increase has been introduced for an initial period of 1 year as part of the government's measures to assist with the financial consequences of COVID-19. And it was part of that £9.3 billion increase to the welfare system, ensuring it was able to stand up and support the millions of extra people who needed it. Future decisions about benefit rates will be made at the appropriate fiscal event.
A substantive question to Minister from Sarah Champion. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since mid-March, we've received over 3 million universal credit claims, ensuring people have a welfare safety net in their time of need. And I'm proud that over 90% of new eligible claimants were paid in full and on time, proving universal credit can stand up to the challenge. The government's support for people and businesses is not ending. We are now focused on delivering our plan for jobs, and I hope that the honourable member will support this, and in particular, the new £2 billion Kickstart scheme to create hundreds of thousands of new, fully subsidised jobs for young people across our country.
Sarah Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the response the Minister's given, but with the coronavirus support schemes being wound down and the government seemingly unwilling to contemplate their extension, what actual steps is the Minister taking to ensure that towns like Rotherham are not faced with a generation of mass unemployment, empty shops and closed factories as a result of the pandemic?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady is right to say that the coronavirus job retention scheme has been a huge success. The scheme has protected up to 10 million jobs. But it's important to point out, Mr. Speaker, that support for furloughed employees does not end in October. In the Chancellor's summer statement, he announced the new job retention bonus, which will pay employers £1,000 for every employee still in post by the end of January. For those, sadly, Mr. Speaker, that are made redundant or lose their jobs, our Job Centre Plus up and down the country stands ready to assist.
Elliot Colburn.
Thank you, Mr. 36, question 36, Mr. Speaker.
I agree with my honourable friend. I met with the Mayor of London and some of his team as part of the M9 group engagement with key stakeholders and other government departments on the importance of local recovery plans and, importantly, action. We now have 890,000 more people claiming universal credit in London, and the Mayor of London needs to work with the local DWP teams to drive this number down and help build a strong recovery for our economy.
Elliot Colburn.
Mr. Speaker, and as part of Greater London, I've met many businesses in Carshalton and Wallington who are keen to expand employment opportunities, including Dottie's Tea House in Carshalton High Street, which I'd love to invite the Minister to. Given London's critical role as the engine of the UK economy, does the Minister agree with me that the Mayor of London does need to step up, show more leadership and do more to encourage employment opportunities, not just in my constituency, but across the capital?
I thank my honourable friend for raising this. This is a critical role in terms of turning London around. And actually, Dottie's Tea House sounds really lovely to pop down to find out whether they've got any gluten-free cake. This pandemic has changed the labour market landscape. And it's absolutely right that the Mayor of London steps up and delivers on the behalf of London. Otherwise, we know there's someone else waiting in the wings to do it.
We're heading to Choppittles with Andrew Barry.
Topical number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's been less than 2 weeks since the government launched the Kickstart scheme, which will help thousands of young people and vital step on the jobs ladder. And thousands of employers have already expressed interest, and I'm pleased that several of them have already been approved with funding. Smaller organisations not expecting to take on more than 30 Kickstarters during the scheme will gain access through their funding through an intermediary. I know several organisations are applying to this gateway, a bit like Suffolk County Council, Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, other organisations. We're having productive discussions with FSB, who I know very much want to be part of the solution for small businesses and young people. Mr. Speaker, this is a Great Britain-wide £30 billion plan for jobs. I know that the Scottish Government's undertaking some of its own initiatives, but I'm sure that he will want to make sure that we put the full efforts of the UK Government in helping people in Scotland get back into work.
Andrew Bowie.
Can I thank my right honourable friend for that answer? Can I ask what steps her department is taking to ensure that young people in Scotland are not disproportionately affected by the economic fallout from COVID-19, given that we were suffering from a higher rate of unemployment when the pandemic hit?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right to point out that Scotland was already starting to struggle compared to other parts of the United Kingdom in terms of unemployment rates. But I want to assure him that we will be working not only with Kickstart, but also making sure we have a Scotland-specific JETS programme in order to make sure that we can tackle people's who need perhaps support to either pivot into different sectors or some intense support, recognising they may have been employed for some time. But we will make sure that the people of Scotland get the full support from the UK Government.
Shadow Secretary of State Jonathan Reynolds.
Mr. Speaker, it is a tragic consequence of the pandemic that some families of NHS key workers have lost their loved ones to COVID-19 after they contracted the virus while serving on the front line. It is absolutely right that they receive compensation for this. But can I ask the Secretary of State to justify the news that low-paid relatives who receive this compensation payment are to be stripped of their benefits? Now, this isn't the case with comparable payments, such as the Grenfell and Windrush compensation schemes. So why are NHS families being treated in this way?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman will be aware that when people have a substantial amount of money, I recognise the route he's just indicated on how they may receive that. That usually takes them over the £16,000 threshold in terms of support through the welfare system. He specifically refers to some other programmes where it's absolutely acknowledged that there's been a complete failure within the government in that regard. This is not the case, I would suggest, to the honourable gentleman regarding the NHS, but I'm sure that as the NHS is a separate employer to the government, that they will continue to work with their employees and the relatives of people